Welcome to another edition of Inside Town Hall. I'm Jim Cameron, the host of this program, and this is a show where we interview folks that are involved with running our town government. And our guest today on the program probably knows more about what's going on with young people in this town than anyone else at Town Hall. Alicia Sillers, who is the youth director. It's good to have you on Inside Town Hall, Alicia.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, before we talk about the work of the youth department and all of its various organizations, let's talk a little bit about your background. What's your educational background, professional work, and how long have you been working for the town?
Okay. I graduated from Boston College in 1982 with a degree in human development and counseling and a minor in English. Subsequent to that, I moved to San Francisco and actually, believe it or not, worked for a cruise line in the United States headquarters. And subsequent to that, when I was 26, I left the country with a childhood friend of mine and traveled around the world. I was gone for about 14 months.
Wow.
And that really was a very defining part of my life. When I returned, I was hired as the original executive director of the Depot back in 1990. And I was there for about 6.5 years and absolutely loved that job. I loved the direct impact. I loved the direct contact. It was just an amazing job. And late in 1996, I was hired as the youth director. So I've been here quite a few years. I've seen quite a few changes and evolutions in the town and in the youth in Darien. And just as a little bit more background, believe it or not, I did graduate from Darien High School in 1978, moved here from the Midwest when I was in elementary school. So I have those deep Midwest roots in my wiring. And so that's kind of a snapshot of who I am and what I've done.
And has the town always had a youth director?
It has. I believe that I am the third youth director. My predecessor was in the position for, I believe, about 10 years. And then prior to that was longtime Darien resident Debbie Parnon. And I'm not certain when she started or for how long she worked here. But yeah, we've been around for quite a while.
And your office obviously is in Town Hall. I was admiring some of the artwork behind you that was, I think you said, done by your daughter, some of it, and other by students as well too.
Yep.
How big is your staff, and what kind of a budget do you operate with?
So that's a interesting question. I share office space with the Darien Parks and Rec department, and we share support staff. So there are 2 permanent part-time individuals who support administratively and so much more, actually, both the Parks and Recreation Department and the Youth Commission. And oftentimes there is confusion in other towns. Some of the things that that our youth department here in Darien does is sponsored by Parks and Rec departments. So for instance, the summer camp program has, as long as I know, come out of the Youth Commission. And I rely heavily on volunteers. The TOPS program, which is social and recreational in nature for middle school students, stands for Teen Options. That's been around for about 35 or 40 years and was originally designed as a parent-driven organization. That has changed and evolved through the years. I do have permanent part-time individuals who help at those events. But were it not for the volunteers, for instance, we had a 7th grade dance on Friday night here in the town hall. We had about 150 7th graders, and the parent volunteers who were here were critical. And they did a phenomenal job at supporting the success that our kids enjoyed. And then, of course, I have a seasonal staff that works for the Youth Commission during the summer. And that is on average about 35 individuals that are hired annually.
And is the youth commission that you refer to the same as the youth department?
Yes. So the Youth Commission is comprised of 7 adult members. Currently, we have 5. We have 2 vacancies. It's the fullest that we've been in years. And I know that both the RTC and the DTC are working at trying to fill those vacancies. And then in addition to that, we have students, high school students who are on the Youth Commission. And we have a minimum of 2, maximum of 4 from each grade. And the commission is supports the activities and events that we run. They troubleshoot and brainstorm. They are involved themselves in human services organizations and agencies. They help with the budget process. They are, a governing, guiding commission, much like other commissions have.
And what kind of events does the youth commission sponsor?
So we do a variety of events, and those have evolved throughout the years. One of the things that we do is an annual Halloween window painting contest, and that's for middle and high school age students. And we usually get about 120, 130 kids to sign up to paint windows. Merchants agree to have their windows painted. We have done that during the holidays, during COVID. We did that in spring during COVID. A year and a half ago, the Youth Commission, in conjunction with SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, and with help of Alan Hyatt Landscaping, we planted close to 1,000 yellow tulip bulbs to bring awareness to the crisis that adolescents are facing in terms of their, vulnerabilities with mental health. Unfortunately, the deer ate almost every single yellow tulip. So we decided that we were going to beat the deer. And then instead of planting more bulbs, we're encouraging kids, and May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month, to paint window storefronts with a yellow tulip theme design to further awareness of this effort.
Alicia Siller is our guest today on Inside Town Hall. She is the youth director here in Darien. Let's talk a little bit about mental health, because we hear quite a bit about kids and their mental health. The town was devastated in 2022 by 2 suicides of high school students. Talk to me about where is this a new problem? What exacerbated it, and what are the manifestations of this mental health crisis?
Well, there are 2 things that I'd like to say out of the gate. Yes, there were 2 suicides that, or death by suicides is my understanding that is the correct and respectful way to refer to it, by adolescents, as well as by a father in Darien. And then there was another unfortunate death of an adolescent due to a medical condition. So the town suffered in a very, very, very short period of time, devastating loss. And I am going to qualify this. I am not a mental health professional. I have a lot of experience working with young people. I think that the pressures that young people face today are very, very different than young people faced in years, even 10 years ago. I think that there is a sense that nothing less than perfection is acceptable. And we all know that there is no such thing as perfect. And it's an incredibly competitive town, whether it's academics, athletics, and I think that there is a tremendous amount of pressure that is placed on young people. And I'll qualify that statement by saying it even comes from parents, though it's not ill-intended. It's parents are trying to support their kids to grow into successful and accomplished young adults. So what is received as pressure is intended in a loving and supporting way. But as I said, there's so much competition, and I can't even imagine what it's like to bear that sort of burden as a young person. But there are so many opportunities for young people to receive support and for parents to receive support and education. There is the mental health task force that was formed about a year ago. It is currently chaired by Ellie Ramstack of the Human Services Department. There is the Darien's Thriving Youth Task Force, which is a volunteer coalition that brings together local community organizations to promote and empower positive youth development and mental health with the goal of reducing teen substance abuse. This diverse group includes mental health, substance use, and healthcare professionals, as well as leaders from the schools, police, town government, and clergy. Parent awareness in partnership with these organizations is another great resource for parents. The Thriving Youth Task Force I'm just reaching for a piece of paper, in an effort to meet adolescents where they are, hosted a Darien Youth Community Conversation last November. And about 35 high school age students from public and private schools, residents of Darien, participated in this community conversation. It was facilitated by Deborah Hertz as a professional facilitator, and there were 3 neutral adults from the community who were there to help support the conversation. And the biggest takeaway that was delivered was how hungry they were to talk. And the question really was, what is it like being a teen in Darien? And one of the things that they said is that they feel as though there's pressure to be excellent, that it's harder to be an adolescent today than it was when we were adolescents, that connections with friends, peers, and new people are so important. I think that kids look at their peers and think, well, they've got it all going on and they've got it together, and don't realize that everybody has some level of vulnerability. And so rather than feeling isolated, I think connecting is a key to feeling heard and acknowledged, and recognizing that perfection is elusive. I think what most people want is for kids to do and be their best. And I don't think that that equals perfection.
And certainly COVID didn't help in any of that.
No,
Connections, right?
It didn't. And as an event and program provider, we saw the fallout that COVID left our kids with. And I feel as though that can no longer be an excuse. It certainly can explain things, but with all the supports that everybody is putting forth and engaging in, I think we can't permit that to just be an excuse anymore. Some of the things that they did say, the kids did say, is that they want their parents and school to trust them more, that they want to be treated better like young adults, that their voices aren't being heard, and they want to make their own decisions and learn how to fail. And that is the one thing that I am so grateful was an outcome, because I think, again, with all the right intent, we as an adults try and rescue young people from failure. And obviously, big failings are, that's our responsibility. But minor failings that we rescue our kids from, they don't learn resiliency. They don't learn self-healing. They don't learn self-soothing. They don't learn self-advocacy. And to hear the kids say that they want to be permitted to stumble and fail was really quite a wake-up call.
So that's the downside of the helicopter parent who, wants to protect their kid and be
Mhm.
their intermediary whenever they
Mhm.
get into trouble, as opposed to letting the kid, bear the consequences of their behavior and their decisions.
Right. And I think, again, I reiterate, I think that no parent is doing that with the intent of um, doing a disservice to their kids. I mean, it's understandable. It's just that, we need to let our kids stumble. We do. One of the things that is a recent development for the town, probably about 5 years ago or so, maybe even a little longer, was the development of the JRB, the Juvenile Review Board. And that's a diversionary program for adolescents who have minor infractions with the police department. And I think that what that does is it holds the kids responsible and accountable for poor decisions. And
Explain how that works for our viewers that aren't familiar with that program.
so again, it's a diversionary tactic program, and there are school administrators, police, representative from the depot, representative from town, myself, human services, and we sit on the panel. And when a young person who's under 18 has been arrested for something, whether it's, alcohol or tobacco or drugs at school, they are given the option to enroll or participate in the Juvenile Review Board, as opposed to being turned over to the court system, which is, there's no there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of positive outcome if that's the route. Now, parents have to get attorneys, and it's just, they get lost in the sauce. And what we do is we listen to the case, we listen to what the young person's perspective is and take is on it, let them tell their story. We review what the report says. A parent is always present. And then if we accept the case, then typically it comes with a consequence of community service hours. Sometimes it's they have to do drug screening. Sometimes it's letters that are written to family members or to individuals who their actions have negatively impact, whether it's sibling or employer, the likes. And then they are given a time frame to accomplish this. Not everybody who has, not everybody who has been recommended to the Juvenile Review Board has been accepted into the process. There have been 2 individuals that I can think of who were turned over to the court. And then if they don't complete what they're supposed to do within a certain time frame, then being referred to the court is up to the Juvenile Review Board. Or sometimes they might be given an extension if there are mitigating circumstances. But the onus is on the kids to complete and accomplish the consequence for why they are before the board to begin with.
Alicia Sillers is the youth director here in Darien. She's joining us today on Inside Town Hall. You mentioned that one of the ways that some of the kids cope with this pressure and challenges to their mental health is through drinks and drugs.
Mhm.
Do you have a sense of that's happening more or less than it has in previous years?
You know, I'm I'm not in the social realm of high school age students the way that I once was. I think that it is still a primary problem in town, underage drinking. I think that many efforts are being made to educate parents to and kids to the problems that come along with that. The typical brain isn't completed developing, hasn't finished baking until about 25 years old. The younger that young people introduce alcohol, the more likely they are to deal with addiction later on in life. And efforts are, and then there's the legal ramification to the kids, the legal ramification to parents, and a lot of parents are still ignorant to the fact that if they're away and there's a party at their house and something goes awry, they're legally liable, and which is enough to scare some parents straight. It is a big deal. It's not a big deal. But I think that we are making strides. We are increasing awareness. There are a lot more opportunities for young people to connect with mental health support through the schools, through agencies. And I think it's really impressive when young people make the decision that it's not for them just because it's the norm.
Do you get the sense that the legalization of recreational use of marijuana by adults has found its way into the hands of those under the age of 18?
I can't really answer to that. I can tell you that kids are wily and they will figure out a way to do what they want to do, how they want to do it. And in being wily, a friend of mine one time said to me, hire a teenager while they still know everything. They know best. And but they are not necessarily able to outsmart the law, school administrators, and there are consequences. And I think when kids are held accountable, other kids take note.
You mentioned that when you came back to Darien, you were the director of the Depot, which is the teen center. How do you liaise, if that's a verb, how do you work with the Depot, given that you share many common missions?
We work really closely together. We sponsor events at the Depot. If there's, an opportunity for a big teen event, we will financially support them. We were there supporting their Depot Dip recently. It was the third Depot Dip that they've sponsored, which is a fun and fundraiser. It took place late March down at Weed Beach. They support some of the community-wide events that we run because we are a small commission. And again, volunteerism is critical to the success of much of what we do. So for instance, this Saturday, we are doing the 6th in 2.5 years drive-through food drive at Darien Street train station parking lot, Coons Lot, across from Tilly Pond Park. Everybody thinks about all the negative that happened with COVID. And believe me, there was more than we want to have to remember. But a positive outcome is we created this knowing that there were so many people that were isolated and so many people that were suffering. We did our first ever drive-through food drive in, I believe it was December of 2020. And the generosity and support that we received from the community was so humbling. And we have volunteers from the middle school, from the high school, from the youth commission, community members who come and help us. unload people's cars of the goods that they're donating. Last April, I think that we collected over 3,000 pounds of food in a 3-hour period.
And that food goes to person to person?
Person to person. The other thing that we do is we sponsor 1 or 2 of St. Luke's community suppers that they've been running since 2008.
Thursday evenings.
That came as a result of, the economic challenges that people were facing, and it was a means of communing and fellowship, and it was so successful that they now do them on a weekly basis during the school year. During COVID, they were challenged how they were able to continue with that. They did drive-through, pickup only dinners, and we were with them, helping prepare the food, paying for the food that was served that night. And then this past March 16th, we were back in person in action. We had kids from the Youth Commission serving the food, cooking the food. It was, as my liaison there, Fran Principe, said, it was the most people that they've had at an in-person dinner since before the pandemic. It was so incredibly moving. And
what does it mean to the volunteer? I mean, especially I hate to call them kids, young person. What does it mean to them to do that kind of community service?
Well,
we just talked about how overstressed they are, and they got sports and they got academics and stuff. And now we're layering onto this, and you got to do something for the community. But what do they get out of that?
I think that it's a heightened awareness that we live in a really, really beautiful and comfortable community, and that there are needs within our own community as well as our neighbors. And, to the individual the young person who is overstressed and overextended, you could ask any member of the Youth Commission, the Youth Advisory, that they know that I will never pressure them, that I want them and I need them, but they have to come and help on their own terms for as little and as much as they can. It's important that it's not another thing that they just have to do, but that they're there because it's in their heart and it's in their intent, and it's the right thing to do, and they have the time to do it.
I want to come back and talk about summer camp, which is coming up, one of your bigger activities all year long. But you also are involved with the Thriving Youth Task Force. What is that?
So I read to you what their mission is. And the task force started many years ago. Its original name was DCARB. That's when carbohydrates were highly frowned upon. So it was DCARB, the Darien Coalition to Address At-Risk Behavior. And through the Search Institute, which is based out of Minnesota, it was a survey, an asset-based survey, was distributed to students in grades 7 through 12. And I gotta tell you, I don't remember the first year that it happened. I think it was 2008, I think. And the idea being that the results would show how many of the 40 possible developmental assets that an individual can possess, how many the average Darien teen possesses. And the idea is that the more assets that a young person possesses, the less likely they are to engage in at-risk behavior. And this has evolved throughout the years. It's been a kind of a divining rod on programs that have been developed by the Thriving Youth Task Force, partnered with PTOs in Darien, especially the high school and the middle school PTO, parent awareness, to address these concerns. I think we were all somewhat surprised at the results. We all thought that our kids possessed probably, somewhere between 30 and 40 developmental assets. And we were nowhere near that. We were above the average, national average. And again, I can't speak to exactly what that was, but I want to say that it was in the range of 23 to 25. And the goal is to move the needle and to ask a bunch of questions, like 150 or 180, that are then synthesized into this algorithm that will speak to the developmental assets. The Thriving Youth Task Force is under the auspices of the Community Fund. If you go to the Community Fund website, there is a link to the Thriving Youth Task Force. It can talk about its history. It speaks about the survey. The survey was just recently conducted. It was conducted in March, and it will be a driving force behind program informational dissemination for the upcoming school year.
Let's talk about summer camp.
All right.
Not everybody gets to go up to the Hamptons or the Cape or wherever it is. Some kids stay in town. Maybe they're going to summer school, maybe they have jobs or whatever it is. But the town actually puts together this amazing summer camp program. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you. I take such pride in this program. And what I say is that I create the structure of the program, the skeleton of the program. I take care of doing all the hiring. I take care of booking the field trips and hiring the entertainment and the workshops. And then I take that structure and I give it to the camp directors. There are 2 camp directors at each site. They are all educators or have worked with me for years, and they create the heart of the program. The staff is really who bears the burden of delivering the product that I'm so proud of. We are challenged this year with space, as many people are. We are going to be operating out of one school. So there's a program going into first grade. There's a program going into second and third. There's a program going into fourth, fifth, and sixth. And then there's a middle school summer activity program for kids entering grades 7, 8, and 9. We have currently 230 kids. We are at capacity in all 4 programs. I'm just about done hiring the summer camp staff. And the dates are June 19th to July 28th. It's 3 2-week sessions. And as I said, it's just so much fun and has so much heart. And, now I'm hiring kids who went through the program. I've been doing this job for, over 25 years. So Lord knows that some of those kids are, 30 and working for me.
And are you still looking to hire counselors or junior counselors?
I'm still looking for 2 more directors. I have 5 of the 7, and I am not looking for more counselors. I have a couple of vacancies, but I've got applicants, and then the town will be sponsoring a counselor and training program. It's a very small program. I'll take this as a PSA, opportunity for a PSA. The hiring process is between one's child and myself. Obviously, when a young person is offered a job, an opportunity, I encourage them to discuss the logistics with their parents before they make the commitment to me. But it's really, for many, it's the first time that they've applied for a job or that they've interviewed for a job, and parent involvement doesn't help with the process.
And these are paid positions?
Yes, they are. They're paid. And minimum wage just is going up for the 5th time in 5 years. The minimum wage starting June 1st is $15 an hour.
And what age do these young people have to be at minimum?
They have to have completed their junior year in high school to be considered. The exception that I would make to that rule is if one has successfully participated and completed the counselor in training program that we sponsor, which is for kids who have completed freshman year in high school. And again, it's a very small program, like 4 or 5 max. Then with a positive recommendation from the camp directors, then I would consider hiring somebody a year prior to typical candidate.
But if one of these young people takes a job, they're expected to be there and not have their parents pluck them out of the program to take them to Italy for a week's
Right.
vacation.
It's
They have
only
to commit.
it's a 6-week commitment. And,
Right.
the campers become really, really close with the counselors, as the counselors do with the campers. What I say about the program is it has so much heart. That's my tagline. It's not in print anywhere.
And how much does it cost to send your child to one of these camp sessions?
So it's $500 for a 2-week session. It's $900 for 2 sessions, and I think it's
$1,300
for 3 sessions.
Right.
And that's cost covering. If kids want to bring money when we go on a field trip for a concession or, the gift shop, that's between the parent and the kid.
Right.
But there's no additional cost. The middle school program, it's a little different. It is $125 a week, or it's $600 for all 6 weeks. Some of the field trips, there's additional, they have to pay the entrance fee, but all that information comes out before the program, and the parents are aware of that when they sign their kids up for the program.
And the are all the students that are involved in the camping program from Darien, or are some of them from neighboring towns as well too?
Well, we have accepted non-residents. However, the truth is that we are at capacity. So we already have a waiting list. And to the parents who have asked if we can't just add a section and hire 2 more counselors, I don't have the flexibility to do that this year because space is so tight. So,
And the program really took off during COVID, did it not?
oh no, it took off. It's been tremendously successful prior to that. COVID, it was interesting because I always build on the success of the prior year and do things differently and tweak. And, it's not the same thing year after year, although there are repeated field trips. But when COVID happened and there were so many restrictions that were imposed upon us by the Office of Early Childhood, which was for COVID purposes, the governing agency of all summer camp programs, including municipal summer camps, I realized it is a product and we had to completely redesign, redevelop, and produce a whole new program. And it was as successful as I ever could have hoped it could be. The amount of gratitude that parents expressed that their kids were, that it was the first social thing that they'd been able to do since the school shut down in March. The next summer, the only COVID impact was that was 2021. Everybody, regardless of vaccination status, had to wear masks inside and no one had to wear them outside. Last year, there were no COVID restrictions. And it is our hope that will continue to be the way that it will be this summer.
And you run 3 different sessions starting June 19th.
Yes.
The last session ends July 28th.
Yes.
Why don't you run a session in August?
There was not a demand initially. Parks and Rec runs a whole bunch of mini summer camps during August, so they fill that need. And then, from a logistical standpoint, so many young people start school so much earlier. We have kids that are leaving to go to school the 1st and 2nd week of August. I have the camp directors who work for the Youth Commission have worked the years of service combined, when I think of just 4 of them, it's over 100 years. And they have, we are a team. The only time I pull clout is when I make weather related decisions that they don't agree with. And typically I'm wrong, but their standards are higher than my standards. And to have them return year after year is a boon to the program.
And are you still looking for volunteers to help out with summer camps?
I don't use volunteers for summer camp. It's enough to manage the staff. But we're always looking for volunteers to help at the events such as the drive-through food drive, at the TOPS program. As I said, the TOPS program, the success is in large part due to the parent volunteers that we have. And it's, the argument against that many parents give me is that their kids won't let them. And that's a really tough.
No kid wants their parent to be a chaperone at the
And
the
that's
dance, right?
so not true, because the kids inevitably are appreciative that the parents are there. And I must remind parents that these kids are 11, 12, and 13 years old. So that their 11-year-old isn't letting them help. And just, that's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah,
Hey, my kids came to the program and I was at all the events. So, and they loved it. They still came.
That's what they told you, right?
Yep. Yep.
Mom, just go over there or something,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And I'm the one walking around saying, get that kid off your shoulders.
That's right. No climbing on the bleachers.
Keep the brownies in the small gym.
That's right. Alicia Siller is our guest today on Inside Town Hall. I really want to thank you for all your time in doing this particular interview, and also your dedication over these many years to the youth in this town. I'm going to put in the closing credits in a moment the website information and the phone number, so you can get more information about all these different activities that we spoke of. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
Just that I'm really, really proud to be a part of this organization, and grateful to the folks who do support us and what we provide. And let's just keep on keeping on.
All right. Well, let's leave it on that positive note then. Alicia Siller is the youth director for the town of Darien. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you.
And thank you, our faithful viewers, for watching yet another edition of Inside Town Hall.
Thank you.